What's up, Earth Rockers? It's your boy Shovatar here, and in the interests of keeping these videos shorter, and because there's not much to say on level 1, I'm just going to start the footage right now. This is a no-hit run of Dracula's Curse, Japanese version, picking up Grant this time, and my goal time for this run was under 32 minutes, which I got. The final time for this run was 31:45, and like I just said, there's really not much to say about level 1, so I'm mostly going to be spending these first couple minutes talking about this run generally. Grant runs are very interesting because Grant is a very interesting companion. Every companion introduces things that the other companions can't do, but Grant does something unique, which is that he fundamentally changes the way that you move. So one of the classic trademarks of a Castlevania game is sort of movement speed on the slower side and then fixed jumping arcs that are controlled, and that are like, when you jump in Castlevania games, you like go the same distance and the same height every time. Grant is much faster than Trevor, and he also has variable jump height, where if you hold down the button for longer, you will jump further, and he also has full air control, which is interesting because it sort of messes up your muscle memory, and you basically have to learn controls for a whole new character. That's kind of the case for Sypha. That's kind of the case for Alucard, because Alucard can turn into a bat, but with Sypha and Alucard, if you're just running around and jumping, you'll be moving at the same speed as Trevor and you'll have the same jump arc as Trevor. So Grant is almost, if you're already kind of experienced with the game, I would say it's hardest. I'd say Grant probably has the highest like skill ceiling of any of the companions, except, well, actually maybe not, because Alucard can do some pretty crazy stuff if you're playing at the absolute highest level. But Grant is really hard. Trying to play optimally with Grant is really hard because he introduces so many new options. There's lots of weird little quirks to his mechanics that I'll point out as they become apparent, as they show up later in the episode. This is not an episode, this is a video. Later in the run, sorry. I was just thinking about The Sopranos earlier today, so I'm thinking about episodes. But you don't get Grant until level 2, so he's not going to show up until then. Level 1, this is pretty much how you would always play level 1 if you wanted the holy water at the end of it, which I do want. This isn't one of those things where I can maybe go get the stopwatch or maybe get the axe and not get a sub-weapon at all. I want the holy water on Trevor, and that's the only sub-weapon he's going to get for the whole run. So that's very similar to how the Cypher run goes, where in the Cypher run I don't really mess with Trevor's sub-weapons. And, no I don't. Sorry, I just recorded a commentary for the Cypher run and I already forgot what happened in it. This is the problem when you do 16 different runs of the same game and you try to keep them all straight in your head. Sometimes you forget what exactly happened in each run. But anyway, that's level 1. And we'll quickly be moving on to level 2. I'll also explain briefly that Grant is different in the Japanese version of the game and in the US version of the game. Now, technically, Sypha and Alucard are too, sort of, but their differences are much more subtle. JP Grant is different from US Grant in ways that are very obvious, and which I'll also point out as we get there. So now we're in the Clock Tower, which is sort of the price you pay for getting Grant, because Grant lets you skip a lot of really difficult parts of the mid-game and the late game, but the consequences that you have to play the Clock Tower. And the Clock Tower is interesting in a no-hit speedrun, because I'm actually going to go back for a second, because something I want to explain. So what's tricky about the Clock Tower in a speed run, or a run where you've given yourself a time limit, is that it kind of becomes a platforming challenge, because as I've pointed out in previous videos, stairs are really, really slow, and you want to avoid as many stairs as you possibly can, which means taking a lot of sort of tricky jumps that, like, they aren't the hardest jumps in the world, but you absolutely can fail them. Like, these are both pretty tricky, and the reason I don't jump here is because if you try to jump off of this platform, you'll actually bonk your head into the platform above you. So I just wanted to point out why I jump over all these other stairs, but I don't jump over those, because you can't do it. At least I don't think you can. I've never seen anybody do it. Anyway, so in the context of a time limit, the Clock Tower is tricky because you're doing a lot of tough jumps, and then in the context of a no-hit, the Clock Tower is tricky because pretty soon we're going to get to Medusa heads that have some predictable spawns and some random spawns. And the reason I jumped over that knight right after I killed him is because I wasn't sure if he was going to drop a sub-weapon. I try to keep track of my drops, which, if you haven't seen any of my prior videos before, basically the way sub-weapon drops work in Castlevania 3 is that every fifth drop is a sub-weapon. So if you get 4 little heart drops, then the next little heart drop is going to be a sub-weapon, and the holy water tends to make things drop items. So I thought that knight earlier that I killed with the holy water was going to drop a sub-weapon, but he just didn't. So that's what happened there. You can actually jump over this guy. That skeleton that I just killed, you can stun him with holy water and jump over him, but the timing is really, really, really tight. And the clock tower was already a gigantic reset point for me, so I just cut that out because it was too difficult. So here we get the first room where there's variable Medusa heads. And the Medusa heads are predictable and random depending on where you are in the screen. So let me go back a bit. So basically, if you're all the way to the right here, or if you're like all the way to the left like you are here, then the Medusa heads will always spawn opposite you, because the game developers didn't want to spawn a Medusa head right next to you. But if you're in the middle, if you're close to the middle, they can kind of go either way. Like at the top of this staircase here, I don't know if that Medusa head is going to spawn on the right or the left. If he spawns on the left, I have to stop and kill him. If he spawns on the right, I can just go right past him. I pretty much always stop to kill that Medusa head. There are some patterns where you can just go up the stairs and not get hit by that guy, but I just always stop and kill it just to be safe, because I'm not... It depends, because what's weird is that Medusa heads are supposed to spawn at the exact same altitude that you're at, but sometimes in this level, they're slightly offset, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a thing they did specifically for this level, because I feel like I don't really notice it in other levels, although to be fair, in other levels you're not usually dealing with Medusa heads and verticality at the same time. So I don't know if that's a baseline functionality they have and I just don't notice it elsewhere, or if it's something just for the clock tower, or if it's just a weird quirk of how they decide where and when to spawn. But you're going to see that more dramatically in later points in the clock tower. Like once you get on Grant, that's when their patterns become really, really random, which makes you think it has something to do with how you move, because Grant moves so fast and falls, does a lot of like quick falling down, so I don't know if that's what causes it or not. You're like, yeah, this part's also super random. Like whether you this is a good example of like the cascading consequences of RNG. So because this Muja's head spawned on the right, I had to stop and whip it, and the fact that I had to stop messed up the patterns for the rest of the Medusa heads. Now they're on like, whether I can go up those stairs with whipping or without whipping kind of determines where the other Medusa heads are going to spawn. And see, like right there, like that Medusa head that spawns right, okay. So that Medusa head that spawns up in the top right corner, look at that. He's like 1,000,000 miles above me. So clearly they're not always supposed to spawn on the same altitude that you're at. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. I wonder if it's a thing where, like, if you're moving upwards when the spawn trigger happens, they, like, try to spawn above you. I have no idea what causes it. But that's all to say that if you're trying to no-hit the clock tower, you can't just autopilot your way through it. You have to react to a lot of the Medusa spawns. So that's the thing about Dracula's Curse that keeps it difficult, is that even though you do have fixed jumping arcs and consistent whip swing rhythms, and a lot of the game you can kind of learn through muscle memory, there's also these tiny little strange quirks where things don't always move the same way or don't always make the same decisions, and like they're human, and that's what keeps it really difficult. So this is really, I didn't really know I could do this, to be honest, until I went and looked up like really high level speedruns. I didn't know you could literally just run up to him and just like smash him in the face with holy water and kill him. I thought you had to wait and bait him down. And I don't think I do this in my US run, because I don't think I knew that I could. It's possible. It might not be possible in the US, actually. Maybe they changed it a little bit, because the holy water in the JP version of the game and the holy water in the US version of the game behaves slightly differently. The US version of the game, the holy water does the same amount of damage, but it does it faster. So it's technically way better, but it does mean that if you are knocking something back by hitting it over and over again, which by the way is what's happening here. The reason this works is because, sorry, I'll go back, is because Monster Grant is a boss that gets kind of like impacted by, you can see how he's like kind of like jittering back and forth. He gets affected by when he gets hit. That like affects his movement and trips him up. So, I don't know if that would work with the fast burning holy water. Maybe it would. I could find out. I really should know, but oh well. This conversation's always funny to me because the translation for it in the US version is very strange. You'll see it when I start posting US videos, so I guess I won't spoil it for you. Or you could watch my million other Castlevania 3 videos I already have on my channel, but those ones aren't as good as these ones, in my opinion. So another consequence of Grant moving faster than Trevor and having all these different movement options, like he can climb on walls and climb on ceilings, is that in the context of a speedrun, you basically want to be Grant all the time. That's really close. Let me go back for a bit, because this is like the exact altitude these two Medusa heads spawn at is so variable. If they get a good spawn, you can just walk off the edge and barely brush right past them. Okay, my nose is like hitting his nose, but if you get a good spawn, you can just like brush right past them like that. And then you land here, and then if that Medusa head on the bottom left spawns right across from you, you can just go straight down the stairs and not worry about it. But because he spawns so low, like look at how many of the stairs he hits here. I can't go down the stairs to avoid that guy, so I have to just wait for him to go past, then move past this guy instead. So again, weird variability in the Medusa head spawns in that room in particular, which makes you think that has something to do with the way that you move, because I'm moving a lot in that room by falling down fast. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. I really don't know. It's interesting. I've played this game for a long time, but I'm still really in the dark on a lot of the specific hidden mechanics of it and how enemies decide what to do. This room, there's also a lot of variability with how you move through it, depending on where the Medusa head spawns. Sometimes you have to go up on the ceiling, sometimes you have to stop and kill them, but there they gave me a good pattern, so this is pretty good so far. And this is one of the biggest points of variance, is do you get good Medusa patterns coming out of the clock tower? If you're willing to take damage, it's not a big deal because you can just walk right through them, but if you're doing a no-hit, then whether they're nice to you or not nice to you could cause you to slow play a lot. This part's pretty tough. Okay, that's good. So an interesting note about JP Grant is that he can only pick up 2 sub-weapons. He can only pick up the axe and the stopwatch, and I'm going to keep the stopwatch for a little bit. That hurts. No, optimally, I would get the torch here as I'm falling, but I just hit the button slightly too late and I missed it. Oh well. Oh well. And I jump there because when you hit the floor at the end of the level here, you do this like scripted walk to the end of the level, scripted walk over to the door that's really slow, and there's a couple spots in the game where they make you do that slow scripted walk, and you want to dodge as much of that as you can. So if you jump back here right before the staircase, you will jump over some of the area that puts you into that scripted walk, and you will be closer to the door when it starts, and it's just a little bit faster. So that was actually a pretty good tower escape. I got some okay Medusa head spawns. I messed up getting the stopwatch on the first fall, but that's not really the end of the world. So that's okay. I'm happy enough with that. That could have been a lot worse. So in my Sypha video, if you watched it, I spent a lot of time complaining about the owls, but if you come into this stage on Grant with the stopwatch, then the owls are a literal non-issue, because you can just spam stopwatch to get through it. The only thing that can trip you up is for that one right there. If that guy spawns too early, I think he can hit you, but it's very unlikely. And a neat little quirk of the stopwatch is that on JP Grant, if you are sitting on the floor and you hit up B to use the stopwatch, then obviously you throw a dagger because you're hitting the B button. But if you jump and hit up and B to activate the stopwatch, you don't throw a dagger for some reason. I don't know why that is, because it's not like that in the US version, but it's like that in the JP version. I don't know. But it means that, like, if for some reason you wanted to jump, throw a dagger, and activate the stopwatch at the same time, you can't do it. You have to choose. So first half 3, very, very simple. On Grant with the stopwatch, you just spam it past all the birds, jump over the turrets, very simple. And I like the stopwatch. The stopwatch, when I was first learning to do no deaths of this game, then the stopwatch was like my best friend, because the stopwatch makes everything so super consistent. But in a speed run, the stopwatch is usually not the fastest option. So here I pick up the axe, and I'm going to keep the axe on Grant for the rest of the run. And what's nice about JP Grant is that the axe is, like I said before, the axe is only one of 2 sub-weapons that you can pick up. It's either the axe or the stopwatch. And what that means in turn is that those semi-random sub-weapon drops I talked about before, where like every 5th item that drops is a sub-weapon, usually will not affect Grant at all, because chances are it's going to drop... The sub-weapon that gets chosen to drop is probably going to be either an axe or a dagger, and he can't pick up daggers, they just turn into hearts, and he can't pick up axes because he already has an axe. So random sub-weapons are very unlikely to be a problem for Grant. It's not impossible that you'll get a bad item drop on a stopwatch at a point when you don't want it, but it's much more unlikely. Characters like Sypha and Trevor, especially Trevor, have a harder time with the random sub-weapon drops because it's just so unlikely that you'll miss one. So now we get to the Cyclops fight, and there's a really fun interaction with the Cyclops and the dagger, which is, as you see, let me go back. So if you time a dagger throw just right, and my cue for it is I wait until I see the clouds spawn in above me, then I just jump. I guess I'm waiting a couple of frames, or a lot of frames actually, but then I jump and I throw a dagger, and that will almost always result in the lightning hitting him. Now, what an optimized speedrun will do is and what that does is it stuns him and it causes him to take 5 little squares of damage. But while he's stunned, I also throw an axe at him because I have a spare axe, so he ends up taking even more damage, I think, right? Yeah, that's 6. That's 6 instead of 5. So, oh no, that's still 5. Did the axe not actually end up doing any damage? That'd be kind of depressing if it didn't. Whatever. Point is, it does a bunch of damage. It's what you want to do, and a optimized speedrun would stand in front of him and then jump and throw the dagger to trigger it. But I don't want to do that, because if you stand in front of him, there's a chance he'll dodge you, or there's a chance he'll charge you. So it just introduces another potential point of RNG. I don't know, maybe there's a way to control it, but I tried to do what the speedrun did and like trigger the lightning from the floor, and it was just too inconsistent and too difficult. So if you just sit up there on that platform and then whittle him down from a position of absolute safety, then it's just one fewer potential point of failure. One fewer spot in the run where you can reset. So the Cyclops on JP Grant is kind of a pushover, and and this is why people say JP Grant is overpowered. Because in a casual playthrough, like the Cyclops is such a problem in a casual run. But if you have JP Grant and you're playing casually, you can just sit here and spam his default attack, and he just dies. So that's why he's so powerful. He skips everything, and then in the JP version, he has an infinite horizontal range attack that can literally cheese one of the trickiest bosses in the game. So pretty good. Now we're on level 4, and level 4 is kind of tricky because there are a couple of birds involved, but mostly it's simple. I don't really remember level 4 causing me too many problems because I play it in... I don't do all the hardest stuff that I could do in this run. There's stuff that the no-hit stipulation means there's some things that I can't go for, but there are also some things that I technically could go for that I chose not to just because they were too finicky or too difficult, or I just didn't want to do it. And level 4 has a particular trick that's really hard that I didn't do, which is coming up shortly. Kill the ghost, jump over the pit. And now this next part I really want to talk about because... Let me just play this out. Okay, seems simple, right? Seems so simple. One of Grant's abilities is he can climb on ceilings, and then he can, when you get to the edge of a platform, he can climb up along the edge of it, and then go up onto it, like here, and then get up onto the staircase. It seems so simple. It seems like the simplest thing in the world. But there's a quirk to how Grant moves on these ceilings. And I read a post about it in the Castlevania speedrunning Discord. And the basic problem is that Grant just moves too fast. When he's traveling along ceilings, he moves too fast, and sometimes you can move past the detector on the corner that's supposed to tell you, hey, Grant has just collided with a corner, and you need to get him up the corner now. So, like, it's something like he moves, like, too many pixels per frame, and he can go right past the pixel. If you get unlucky, if you're, like, not on the right pixel, you can just go right past this spot right here when the game registers that he's at a corner. You can just go right past it and you fall off. And that's disastrous here, because if you fall off right here, you end up falling back down on that lower platform next to the staircase, and a ghost respawns, so you have to kill the ghost, you have to go all the way back across this again, and then jump back up here again, and then try to get up again, and it loses a ton of time. It's so infuriating, and that's why I do a little pause here, is because I had a feeling it was something to do with my position. Like, the reason why I was sometimes falling off had something to do with my position, so I would just, like, pause here for a second, then go and hope that that worked. It probably didn't really make any difference. It's probably just a placebo thing, but that's why I was doing that, because I knew there was something wrong with the way I was moving that was making me randomly fall off, and that seemed to fix it, so But really, it's just random. It's just like what pixel do you start on and what pixel do you end on. So there's a thing you can do here where so there's that corner directly above me, where those two platforms meet. You can actually jump into that and do a little turnaround and like clip through it on Grant, but it's really hard. It's really hard, and you really only have one chance to do it per run. So that's the really hard thing on level 4 that I decided not to go for. Because I wanted to get this done before the heat death of the universe. I mean, it's probably not that bad if you practice it. I just didn't really want to practice it. There's enough things in this run that are really hard and that I really don't like. I just didn't want to add one more. This is pretty straightforward. The Medusa in the JP version of the game can't shoot snake arrows down at you. So if you crouch on Grant and then spam the dagger, it literally can't do anything to you. Well, it can shoot its like petrification beam, but it tends not to do that really. So if you just kill it fast enough, that's like a 100% consistent thing. There's a tricky jump coming up here. I hate that jump so much. I really hate that jump. That's one of my least favorite things in the whole run because it's so close. It's so easy to mess up. It's so easy to accidentally fall off, and it's so easy to not jump far enough. But I just had to go for it because it saves so much time. If you don't do that jump, you have to go up these really long stairs and then like jump across a bunch of platforms. It just takes so long. It looks so bad. It feels so bad. I hate it. I hate it. You gotta respect the birds. You gotta play around the birds so much. So annoying. So now I turn back into Trevor to do the monster mash. You can do this pretty fast on Grant, but you have to take a hit to do it. It's not the Cyclops that's a problem on Grant, it's the mummies. Killing the mummies on Grant without taking a hit is possible, but it's super slow. The only way to do it fast is by like getting hit by them. You'll see it in my second quest video. Now a very basic Trevor whip only Cyclops kill. This is slow, but I need the holy water. If I had the cross, it would be faster, but there's just nowhere to get the cross. And I want the holy water for the next monster mash in level 7. I want the holy water specifically, so even though it makes this monster mash slow, it makes the next one faster. So that's level 4. Other than that one terrible jump, it's pretty consistent. Sometimes, I mean, the birds can always just fuck you over if they really want to. Which is why the Cypher route is generally harder than the yellow card route, even though it seems like it shouldn't be. So if I was not doing a no-hit, I would boost off of one of those fireballs to get past that first turret, and then I'd do exactly what I just did there for the second turret, but I can't take a hit, so I had to kill the first one and then skip over the second one. That jump looks scarier than it is. This one right here. The thing is that the turrets in the JP version fire their fireballs so slowly, like you have more time to jump over that turret than it looks like you do. So that looks kind of crazy, but it's really not. This part's pretty straightforward. On first quest, they spawn at a leisurely pace, so you can just take your time and kill them. Yeah, that was so strange. I'm gonna go back for a second. This is what I mean when I say that the skill ceiling of Grant is high, because the way that Grant works, there's all these weird little mistakes you can make with your movement that are literally impossible on any other character. Like here, I jumped too close to the platform and was like hitting right while I was jumping, so I got stuck to the wall while throwing this dagger, so my dagger missed the gargoyle. And that's, again, and then I think the same thing happens here, right? Yeah, I get stuck again for like a second when I didn't want to be stuck. So then this doesn't end up mattering, but it slows me down a little bit. And that's just what can happen on Grant. The fact that you stick to ceilings and walls means that you have to be so careful with your movement. And this is another, so let me just go back and play this out once, and then I'll go back and explain it. I'm messing around over here. Why am I doing that? Oh, that's why. So this is that corner that I pointed out in level 4. This thing here operates based off of the same principle, where when you play as Grant and you jump into a formation like that, where it's 2 blocks that are only connected at the corners, you can sometimes climb up 1 block and like clip through the corner, and then if you're really lucky, like I got here, you actually don't even have to do the climbing animation, you straight up just jump right through it and then get onto the platform. I don't know why this is possible exactly, but that's what I was trying to do when I first got into the room. I was trying to clip through the block or trying to get like the climb up onto the block, and I just didn't do it right. I was too far over to the right, and so I bonked my head. And why didn't this work? This actually kind of seems like it should have worked. Whatever, I mess it up the first time, but I get it the second time, and I get like the better version of it the second time. Because if you have to climb up it, then you have to sit through the climbing animation. But if you just clip up through it like that, that's even better. So normally, if I mess that trick up, I reset. But there, because I got like a better version of it on the second try, I was just like, whatever, I'll take it. And because the run had been pretty good so far. I got the lightning strike on the Cyclops. The clock tower was good. That's just one of those calls you have to make when you're doing a run like this. Excuse me, sorry. Because the thing about me is that I don't play with splits. Like, I'm not looking at my time even if I'm going for like a time limit, I'm not looking at like a timer as I'm playing. Because I just don't want anything on the screen distracting me. I'd rather just play the game. So what I do instead is here are things tricks I want to hit, things I want to go for, and then if I don't hit these tricks or if I don't get these things, then that's when I reset the run. And that's sort of a call you have to make, is this run so bad that if I finished it, I would be sad? You know? It's not just about the time limit, it's also about like the run not sucking. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I'm sure I didn't have to kill that guy. I did it because I hate dealing with those knights. Because you don't know if they're going to throw up or down, and like, you just never know with those guys. So I just killed him because I just didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to think about it. Thank God I'm finally in a position where I can fight birds with the axe. This is another thing that's nice about having the axe, is that like there's so many times in this game when you do the cipher route and you have to deal with birds and you just can't have the axe because the route necessitates you to have like the cross or the holy water, and you're like, I just so wish I had the axe right now. I wish I had the axe right now so I could just kill these fucking birds. But guess what? Grant has the axe. And he has the axe the whole time. No hitting the Frankenstein boss is kind of tricky. You have to take advantage of this terrain to block all the because the rocks fall in random patterns, and you know it's very slow. Especially because I don't know if you noticed, but the dagger can actually get intercepted by the rocks, like it just happened right there. So if the rocks fall in a bad pattern, it can actually this really slow kill can actually be even slower. But you don't really have a choice. It doesn't make sense to swap to Trevor. And there's nowhere else you can stand to guarantee that you don't get hit by the blocks. So that's unfortunately, and that's a good example of something I've talked about in previous videos about how the reason I give myself a no hit with a time limit is because if you just give yourself the stipulation of don't get hit, then you can play super slow and it just becomes boring. That's a good example though of when that's a really slow strat that I had to keep because I couldn't figure out any faster way to do it. Level 6. Level 6 is usually very hard, but it's actually much more forgiving on Grant. Partially because you can kill these two birds with the axe, and partially because there's a really annoying stage that Grant completely skips. So even in the context of a no-hit, this part's really not that bad. You just kind of have to get used to like this stretch of fishman spawns and knowing when it's safe to go and when you have to wait. And I think like right before I get to the middle, so okay, yeah, this is important actually. This is an important instructional opportunity. So right before I get to the middle of this waterfall, this is what I'm most concerned about, because sometimes if you jump right before the waterfall, you'll jump right into a spawning fishman. But I see that fishman spawning on the left, and I know I'm safe, because if that fishman spawned with the same timing on the right, then I'd be screwed. But I see him on the left, and I see two fishmen on the left actually, so I know I'm completely safe. Because they're not going to put more than two fishmen on the screen at once, at least not in first quest. In second quest, all bets are off. In second quest, it's very different, that stretch of 6B. But in first quest, if you get like close to the waterfall like that and you see a fishman behind you, you're pretty much safe. Wait for the turret to shoot, and look at that. You can just climb right over this obstacle here and completely ignore the second room of 6C, which like if you go down those stairs, you'll see it in other videos. You enter a huge, horrible gauntlet of like turrets and bats and knights, and it sucks 100 dicks, but here you just skip right past it. So, this is what I mean when I say Grant skips a lot of stuff for you in the mid-game. He skips like 2 really, really annoying parts. That's the first one. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to skip that turret and not take a hit. It's probably technically possible if I just like if I loaded up a save state right here, I could probably get past this turret and get past the knight without taking a hit, but because the knight could be doing different things and because the timing for the turret could be different, I'd really rather just kill the turret and then jump over the axe and jump over the knight. Again, it's about mitigating risk. It's about how much random bullshit do I want to have to deal with in this run? You know what I mean? You have to, it's like, how many safe strats am I, like, okay with compared to that would, like, still make me happy with the run at the end of it. This part is so stupid. This makes me so fucking mad. So, like, normally, so a cool thing you can do with Grant, with this section, with this stage, with 60, is you can kind of throw axes preemptively, which is what I'm trying to do here, to, like, hit the fishmen as they spawn. And if they don't spawn close enough to the axe to get hit by it, that's good, because that means they're spawning far enough away that you can just, like, react to them and jump over them. So throwing the axe, even if the axe doesn't actually hit something, is still good because it's covering a potential worse scenario of the fishman spawning too close to you, which is what you don't want. So it, like, makes sense to do this, but here I killed this first fishman. The second one lands on the ledge, and then the game decides that actually on second thought it doesn't want it to be there anymore. I was just going to kill it, but instead it just disappears because it doesn't like it being that close to the ledge, I guess. Then I'm trying to kill this second one that spawns, and I miss it, and then the torch intercepts this other fishman that spawns, who wouldn't have been there if the first one had just stayed where he was supposed to. So, like, and now I'm just fucked because they're underneath me, and if I try to run off of the ledge, because Grant retains his momentum in the air, I'll run right into them. So I have to back up and, like, try to kill them from over here, and it's just so annoying. Yeah, so you look at how far forward I went off of the ledge at the end there. Let me, okay, so I have to kill this one like this, and then when I run forward off the edge, I land so far on this platform, I literally almost hit him. So that was just really bad luck. That was just really bad luck. And I watched this earlier today for the first time since I got the footage, and I actually forgot that that happened. So that's, like, that's so annoying. The Hydra is extremely straightforward. The patterns are the same every time. You have a double shot axe. On Grant, extremely easy. So probably the easiest Hydra kill in any of these categories. Because the jump over the head at the start is so forgiving with Grant's huge jump height, and you have axes, so you have nothing to worry about. And now here we are in the home stretch. And Grant, his ability to help you on level 5 is limited, because level 5 has a big obnoxious auto-scroller right in the middle of it. But he helps you out in level 6, he helps you out in level 7, and he helps you out in level 8, and he really helps you out in level 9, which I'll point out. This little series of jumps, that little series of jumps seems tricky, but it's really not. Again, the saving grace is the fact that the turrets on first quest are, like, super consistent in terms of when they fire first. They're not perfectly consistent, but in level 7 and 7A, you can generally depend on that first turret to, like, fire at the same time every time. So you can be reasonably sure that axe is going to hit it. And then, look at that, you skip pretty much the entirety of 7B, which, like, this room is just like, it's like in 6C, like, you skip an obnoxious room full of turrets and knights in 6C, then you skip this giant hallway full of turrets and knights in 7B, and in a speed run, this part is so annoying, because of a specific feature that you actually can't see. There's a staircase all the way to the right, and getting up that staircase to interact with the first Axe Knight is, like, so annoying, because you don't know what he's going to do the whole time. And this is a good time for me to address a funny glitch, which is that on the Japanese version of the game, for some reason, sometimes this platform that I'm standing in front of right here just doesn't spawn. And somebody figured out why that happens like a month ago or like 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, wow, that would have been really nice if somebody had figured that out a year ago when I started playing this game. Would have saved me some resets, but oh well. Generally, it didn't tend to happen to me. It was a pretty unusual glitch to have happen, and it has something to do with, and it only seems to happen on Grant. So it has something to do with the way you move in this part of the game, in this part of this like stage. Like if you like can have too many sprites on the screen or something. I don't really know. I'd have to look it up and double check it. But yeah, sometimes that platform randomly disappears. And if you played the game casually, you may have encountered that. And but the good news is there is a reason for it. There's a reason it happens, and somebody out there on the internet knows what it is. I just can't remember it now. Because that got figured out after I got this footage. I got this footage, and then like a week later, somebody said, "Oh yeah, this obnoxious thing that randomly kills your runs in the Grant route is caused by this, and you can avoid it by doing this." So, hey, I'm just glad somebody knows. Now somebody just has to figure out how the hell the birds work, and the big mysteries of Dracula's curse will all be solved. Most of them, at least. So now here we are on the second Monster Mash, and this is the not quite the last time I'm going to swap to Trevor, the second to last time I'm going to swap to Trevor. This is the last time Trevor's going to actually do anything. And you can clear this all out with Grant, but like I said before, killing the mummies quickly requires you to take damage, and killing the devil, who's the third boss of the Monster Mash, just takes ages on Grant, especially JP Grant, because US Grant has like a little shank instead of a throwing dagger, which has fewer applications in a casual run, but he just stabs way faster in the US version, so he can do more damage more quickly. JP Grant has to wait for the dagger every time. So I've talked about this devil fight before in my Sypha video, but basically I'm throwing holy water in a very specific pattern here because I want to kill him before he gets the last jump off, because if he had completed this last jump, he would have gone up on the platform above me, and it's impossible to hit him if he's up there without taking a hit yourself. So if I'm doing a no-hit, I really want him to die before he gets up there. It just saves a lot of time. And if you go back and watch that back, the way that I'm throwing holy water there is very deliberate. It's to basically stall him as much as possible, both before he jumps and then on the way down from his jump, so that way he stays in place and takes as much damage as possible. And the only reason that's so hard is because, number one, the devil jumps more frequently in the JP version, and secondly, because the JP holy water does damage more slowly. So you're more likely to not... It's more likely to not do its full damage because he's more likely to just jump out of it before it does. This jump here, that one's actually really hard. Because you have to... It's like an input problem, because you have to jump, then you have to press right to stick onto the uppermost edge of this platform, then go up just enough so that when you press A, instead of climbing on the ledge and going up onto the platform in front of you, because if you hit A, normally it'll just like move you up the platform like you pressed up, and then if you're near a ledge, you'll climb up the ledge. But if you're far enough off the platform already and you hit A, you'll jump, which is what I want. But then you have to jump and then switch directions to go to the left, and then jump again really soon afterwards to go over this knight. And you have to do it fast because you need him to stop moving while you're jumping over him, so that way you can get over to the left side of him. So when he starts moving again, he'll back up away from you. Because if you just try to jump at these knights while they're backing up, you won't actually get over them. You'll just land on their heads and take damage. So that particular jump is like my least favorite part of level 8 because it's so finicky and it's so easy to mess up. But the rest of level 8 is pretty simple. Like the last two knights in this level are very consistent. This room is super consistent. You just kill everything with a knife and then you climb up. The reason that you generally don't see, like this is something that took me a while to realize, so I could have climbed up along the ledge here, but because the ledge climbing animations take time to complete, it's usually faster to avoid doing them if at all possible. Like instead of climbing around the edge of the platform, I just drop off and then jump up because it's faster. Yeah, that guy's super consistent. This guy I actually kill because of the blob behind him. If it wasn't for this blob, I would figure out a pattern to jump over him, but the fact that there's a blob there just means that it would be such a mess. It would be such a mess to try to figure out that situation. Because now you're depending on, like, manipulating the blob's movement, and you're depending on manipulating the knight's movement. And the knight could throw low, and it could throw high, and that could just create so many different potential problems. Climbing underneath the platform like that is the fastest way to get through this, but unfortunately, it means that you don't get to break any of those torches. So you need all the hearts and all the double shots and all the sub-weapons for Grant that you want before you get into this room. Because that does save a lot of time. You would never want to climb up that. So killing the Grim Reaper on Grant is pretty specific, and actually I'm just going to let this play out once while I talk about it. This is pretty specific and scary. I didn't do this in my first recording of this run, because I did a recording of this run a while ago that came out to like 33 minutes something seconds. And then when I went back to improve it, I gave myself the sub 32 time because that just seemed feasible. In that first video, I killed the Grim Reaper on Trevor because I didn't really trust my ability to do phase 1. Phase 2 is simple. Like, phase 2 is really easy, but phase 1 is tricky because you have to... The problem really is manipulating scythe spawns, because there's two... The scythes make two decisions. The scythes decide where to spawn, and they decide where to go towards, and both those decisions are determined by your position. So you want to be in a specific position when they spawn, so they're all above you, and then you also want to be in a specific position when they start moving, so that they're still far enough above you that they don't hit you. And here you can see those two scythes at the bottom get very close and barely get destroyed by the axe before they hit me. So that's like that's pretty much exactly what I want, but again, you're relying on a specific position to make sure that they do what you want, and that's always a potential point of failure. This is funny. The dagger like goes backwards for a frame when it hits him. I wonder why it does that. I guess it detects that it hits him, and then it thinks because it's on the right of him that it's coming from the right? Maybe? I actually didn't notice that. And then again, so it's really this first jump that's the deal maker or deal breaker. And this is the like where you either win the fight or don't win the fight. If you can time this jump correctly to get the scythes to spawn up there, and then time this next jump correctly to get the scythes to move above you and not move directly down towards you, then you're pretty much fine, because you should be able to do enough damage to him that you can just get away from the next set of scythes before they hit you. Here, because yeah, the first scythe that spawns in front of you, like if a scythe spawns in front of you like this, you can just kill it with a dagger, and then you can just like fall off the platform before the other ones get to you, and it's really fine. So phase 1 is tough. Phase 2 is very straightforward. You just like throw 2 axes and a dagger, 2 axes and a dagger. You want to throw as many axes as you can, but JP Grant can't get the triple shot axe. It maxes out at double shot, so unfortunately that reduces the number of axes you can have on the screen at once, which slows up your damage. That's another reason why JP Grant does less damage than US Grant. US Grant has a faster normal weapon, and he can get a triple shot axe, which JP Grant cannot get. So that's the price you pay for having the default infinite range throwing daggers. So I'm going to do a glitch here, and this is the last time you're going to see Trevor. I swapped to Trevor. Then right as I'm starting the animation for this last climb down the stairs, I swap back to Grant, and the game is now confused about my position. It thinks I'm on the stairs, but I'm actually not on the stairs. So I can climb an invisible staircase all the way up here, and because I hit the top of the screen, the game thinks I came up... because I hit the top of the screen at this first room of 9-1, the game thinks I went up those stairs on the right there, and it puts me right in here. So this skips what would otherwise be a big gauntlet of fighting those gremlin things being dropped by birds. And the reason that I skip it here is that even though Grant can go through that part pretty quickly, and this doesn't save... It saves time. That's the main reason I did it. It saves time, and it's pretty easy. But the big thing that it does is it prevents you from accidentally dealing with, from having to deal with accidental sub-weapon drops. Because that gauntlet, that first room of 9-1 with the gauntlet of enemies all landing in front of you is prime real estate for random sub-weapon drops to totally fuck up your run. So that's the main reason I skip it. It's not so much the time save, it's because I don't want to randomly get a stopwatch dropped on my head or dropped in front of my feet while I'm trying to play the fucking game, because it's the most irritating, infuriating thing in the entire world. So now we're going into 9-2, which is my favorite stage in the whole game, actually. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. And on Grant, and 9-2 is rough. So that first turret in front of me, you don't know when he's going to fire. And sometimes he can fire super early and force you to slow down. This time he let me through by firing late. And I paused for a second here on the stairs because I want this gargoyle to spawn on the left. If this gargoyle spawns on the right, that can put me in a tricky position because as you see, this next turret fires again and I have to wait again. And if that gargoyle had spawned on the right instead of the left, then while I was sitting here waiting for this fireball to go past, the right spawn gargoyle would be like coming at me from behind me and I would just be fucked. So I deliberately waited there to make sure that the gargoyle spawned on the left side. And you can control that by just saying, if you're further to the right side of the screen, they'll always spawn on the left. If you're further to the left side of the screen, they'll always spawn on the right. And they're much more reliable and consistent than the Medusa heads are in that regard, which is nice because they're much more dangerous because they're so much bigger. Well, arguably that makes them more dangerous because that means it's easier for them to hit you. And they move more erratically. The Medusa heads have a consistent sine wave pattern. These guys have like an increasing sine wave pattern where they go up and down more and more. So they're more dangerous. So I wait there, I jump over this guy, do another little jump to avoid him again, go up these stairs, everything's going hunky-dory so far, and now I love this so much, dude. This is why I love 9-2, because 9-2 makes you do so much cool shit to get through it. So this next gargoyle is like a really consistent spawn, it always happens. I jump over him, and as I jump over this gargoyle, I throw an axe, and then as I jump over these stairs, I throw a dagger, both at this turret. And I'm not trying to kill the turret. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to delay his shot so that way I can make it up the stairs before the fireballs hit me. And look at that. I'm a mile away before he shoots me. So I love this because normally this would be like an RNG problem where, oh, if the turret fires fast, you're just fucked. You can't do anything about it. But if you play correctly, you can actually stop that RNG from fucking you up by delaying the shot. So I love that so much. That's so cool, man. I fucking love this. Another solution Grant provides that other characters can do stuff kind of like that, but I just love that moment. Anytime you think something is bad RNG and then it turns out you can like play skillfully to stop that bad RNG from screwing you over, just makes me so happy. It feels like justice. It feels like correcting some kind of cosmic crime. Which is what I would define RNG killing a run as. I would call that a cosmic crime. Now we have this incredibly boring 60-second long auto-scroller, which auto-scrollers are always kind of boring, but they're especially boring on Grant because Grant can't do anything. Well, no, because Grant gets to the top of the screen so much faster, you're never worried about, like, you're literally not doing anything. You spend so much time waiting is what I meant to say. If you're doing this on Trevor or Sypha or Alucard, you're moving constantly and you're like thinking about what to do with the next skeleton constantly, but with Grant, he just sits at the top of the screen and waits. Yeah, see, I fell off there. I didn't screw up my inputs. I just fell off because I got unlucky. And I think it's going to happen again here. Yep, I just moved too far. Let me actually get a slow-mo on that real quick. So I'm hitting up and left as I'm at the corner, which should take me up the corner, but I just don't. I just go. Oh, yeah, look at that. 1 pixel, and then 2 pixels. Look at that. I go right past the corner and I'm fucked. Yeah, so that's what that's about. Fortunately, it doesn't matter here. It really only matters during that one part in level 4. If it happens anywhere else in the game, it's not a big deal. So I guess I should be grateful that there's so much waiting in 9-3 on Grant. That way it means that if you mess up something like that, it's irrelevant. 9-4, the hardest stage in the whole game in a casual playthrough, but Grant just demolishes it because you have the axes to fight the birds. You have the axe to fight the birds in 9-4. It's a miracle. It's beautiful. I wish there was a route where you had the access to fight the birds in 9-4 all the time, and if you get bad Medusa head spawns in this last room of 9-4 on Grant, guess what? You can just jump over them, because he jumps so high, and you can keep jumping to bait them over you. You can just... Because another thing about... That's another, like, the last dumb RNG thing about 9-4. The birds are RNG, because you don't know what the hell they're going to do. And then the Medusa heads are RNG, because if they spawn to the left of you, they can impede you on Trevor and Sypha, but Grant just jumps right over them. And now you have a super consistent, super easy doppelganger kill. Get under the floor, throw 11 axes at him, and he dies. Super simple. The only thing that you have to worry about there is not hitting the B button too fast and not accidentally like throwing daggers, because I think if you let him sit there for too long without hitting him, he'll get bored and sometimes come down and attack you. But generally speaking, that doppelganger fight is extremely consistent. It's very, very tough to mess up. Now we're on level A, and level A is mostly straightforward. Grant has a pretty easy time here. So A1 in the JP version of the game is all about lag reduction, because this first half of the A1 autoscroller can lag really badly in the Japanese version of the game. And in this room, there's no hearts, because it's the JP version. There's no random skulls, because it's the JP version. You really have nothing to do but think about lag reduction. And the movement here is pretty trivial, even on Trevor, but on Grant it's just even more trivial. The odds of any of these Medusa heads ever getting within the same zip code as you is very low. Although it managed to happen there anyway. Oh well. Now this is the tricky part, because you have to get past 2 turrets to get to the end of the stage while bats are spawning. And if that bat that spawned on the left there spawns on the right, you can sometimes be in really big trouble, because sometimes you can get caught in a position where, like, let's say... Where am I? Okay. Let's say that the bat that spawned on the right was about to hit me right here. I can't jump over it. So depending on when the turret fires and where the bat spawns, you can kind of get completely screwed here. If you kill the turret fast enough, then I think you can actually kill it before it even shoots that last fireball, which solves that problem. I didn't kill it that fast, but luckily the bat spawned on the left instead of the right. So this is a situation where if you get unlucky and you don't play perfectly, then you can just get screwed. This next part's a lot more consistent, but it's a lot harder. Okay, I'm going to go back and play that in slow motion. So I jump here, I throw an axe to delay his second shot. The first shot, I know he's going to shoot it, and I know I'm going to jump over it. I want to delay the second shot, because I don't want him to hit me while I'm right here. Which is what he would do, I think, if I didn't delay the shot. So that gives me time to jump over him. Then there's the second shot. I stick to the wall here, climb down, stick to the ceiling, wait until the third shot goes past me, then I can just drop down, touch the door, and I'm through. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm gonna toot my own horn for a second here and say I think this movement with this second turret is pretty slick. And it's pretty much exactly as fast as it possibly could be. Maybe it could be a little bit faster, but I'm pretty happy with that. Because that was something that I always thought was almost impossible. I think I specifically mentioned actually in a really old Castlevania 3 video, like, oh, I bet you could probably jump over this guy on Grant, but like that's way too hard. You would never want to do that at the end of a run. Oh, well, guess what? I just did it. Boom. Who could have guessed if you play the same game for a year straight, you get better at it? But now that that tricky movement is over, I'm pretty much safe. It's really just a question of how quickly I'm going to get through this last part, because Dracula on Grant is tough. On JP, well, on both Grants is tough. Mostly because of Phase 2. Because there are no bats in the A2 pendulum room, Grant is the only guy who can get onto these pendulums early. So he's the only guy who can save time here. Besides Alucard, of course. Alucard can just fly right across. So I get all these hearts. You can kill Phase 3 of Dracula with fewer than 16 hearts on Grant, but I really don't want to do that. I'd really much rather kill him with 16 hearts. So I have 15 hearts to get through Phase 1 and Phase 2. So Phase 1 of Dracula, because he moves so fast, you can't one-phase it. At least I don't think you can on Grant. But what's cool about Grant is that Let me actually play this out. So I throw 2 axes so that they hit him as he's standing up. Then I throw a dagger, 2 more axes, and a dagger. And then I air strafe away from this big fire pillar and jump over this one. And that's what's cool about Grant, is the fact that he can jump over these smaller fire pillars. His foot intersects it, but you're not actually intersecting the hitbox. So this is really consistent. The only thing that can go wrong here is if you're too close to him, he can spawn these 2 smaller fire pillars literally right next to each other, and you can't avoid getting hit by them. But so as long as you're not literally like sniffing his robe, actually I am kind of sniffing his robe, but basically as long as you're not like literally right like 1 pixel away from him, he'll spawn the 2 smaller fire pillars far enough apart that they don't hit you, and then it's just 2 more axes. Then it's just 2 more axes, a dagger, and a 3rd axe, and then he goes down. So that's pretty straightforward and pretty consistent. Phase 2 is hard. What's hard about Phase 2 is that it's just really hard to do a lot of damage on JP Grant, because you have this like dinky little dagger and you have a double shot axe. And I'm coming into this phase with 24 axes, so I only really want to throw 4 of them, or throw 8 of them. And yeah, this is pretty bad, but like, it's kind of not my fault. Well, because the other problem with Phase 2 of Dracula, this is like a JP version problem. JP Grant doesn't do that much damage, and the second phase of Dracula on the Japanese version of the game creates a ton of lag, which messes up your button press timing and messes up your muscle memory. Like, you think that when you press B, it's gonna happen at a different time than it does. Like, I'm pressing B here, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I should have been... Oh, actually, I just pressed it too early there, because the dagger... I thought the dagger would have reached the thing and disappeared by the time I pressed B, but I think it, like, lagged, and that messed me up. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm just blaming the game, but the lag does mess up your timing. The lag is really annoying on the second phase of Dracula in JP, and it's not really a problem in the US version. But I get to phase 3 with 16 hearts, so now this is a cakewalk. Killing one phasing Dracula in the JP version on Grant is... with 16 hearts is incredibly easy. You can just jump over the lasers, and look, I kill him with so much time to spare. Look at how far away. So if the third phase of Dracula ends when that platform on the right touches the floor, look at how far away it is when he dies. It hasn't even stopped moving horizontally. So this is like lightning fast. You just crush the third phase of Dracula on Grant in the JP version. You can just jump over the one laser that even gets close to hitting you, and then you can bait the other one. I guess I should explain the baiting, actually. So, the first laser that you worry about comes out of his face, and if you're right underneath him when the phase starts, I run into this specific spot because I want the first laser that he fires to shoot straight down, so that way by the time it fires, I'm already to the left of it. More axes, more axes, more axes. This next laser, I just sit right here to bait it into firing downwards. Then once it's spawned, I jump and I keep throwing. I know that the next laser is going to come from his right hand and is going to go like straight at me, but I'm playing on Grant, so I can just jump all the way over it and keep on throwing axes without, well, barely even pausing. So he just gets, and then I repeat the same thing before with the left-hand laser, where I just stop moving for just long enough for the laser to decide to shoot downward, and then I keep throwing axes and he just gets crushed. So really the only hard part of the Dracula fight on JP Grant is Phase 2, and Phase 2 is really hard to do efficiently. I would say... I guess I wouldn't say borderline impossible, but it's really tricky. I actually don't 100% remember what the speedrun does for Phase 2 that I don't do, but I think it involves taking a hit. That's probably what it is, because you don't really want to go... You would like to spend all of Phase 2 of Dracula on the same side of the big multi-face monster, but to do that efficiently, so if you can like jump into it while throwing an axe and get knocked back, and then get knocked back onto the floor so you can keep throwing axes, that's pretty good, but that's obviously not an option for me because I'm trying to not get hit. So I don't know. I'm sure I could have played that better even without taking a hit, but that's okay. I got the sub 32, which is what I was going for. Realistically, I think you could probably get a no-hit Grant run down to like... I don't think you could go sub 31. I don't think that's really possible, but you could probably get like, you could probably shave like 20 seconds off this if you got like super lucky and you played like a god. Probably more actually, because there's stuff that I skipped. But that's just an idea. So that's the Grant run. JP Grant, very cool, very interesting. Lots of neat stuff that you only really think about in the JP version of the game, like weaving in the dagger throws and the axe throws. You also kind of need more hearts for the Dracula fight on JP Grant because you're relying on axes more to do damage. Whereas with US Grant, you have his like little shank that you can use to stab things, and that's a better combat tool. It's a better combat tool in the context of a speed run, but the throwing daggers from JP Grant are a better combat tool in the context of a no-hit run, and certainly in the context of a casual run, which is why it's so funny. This is what's funny about games when you play them at like a really, really high skill level, is how everything gets warped, everything gets changed. Like, common sense, conventional wisdom would say, obviously JP Grant is way better than US Grant, like borderline overpowered. But in the context of like a speedrun, in the context of efficient gameplay, even though US Grant is way harder to use, he's technically better because he has like better, faster capabilities. That's just an interesting thing about what you learn about these games and you play them at a high level, and part of why I was so committed to doing this, even though I didn't necessarily have to, but just because I wanted to see, okay, here's what these games are like when they're played casually. What are these games like when they're played at like a really high level? That was just something that I was curious about. That's why all these runs exist. So that's the run. I hope you all enjoyed, and keep an eye out for the next one, which is going to be a JP no-hit Trevor or Ralph only run. He's Ralph in the JP version of the game. Hope you all enjoyed, and as always, keep on Earth rocking.